set it up and turn it around. We might have come from somewhere else, but this is where we found ourselves. Welcome to the local show. People you work with, people you know.
Welcome to another edition of The Local Show here on GrassRoots Community Network. Welcome to our Facebook Live audience and YouTube audience. Guys, thanks for being here this week.
Hold on, my bad. Let's do that again.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be looking at him, right?
Welcome to another edition of The Local Show here on GrassRoots Community Network. Thanks, guys, for tuning in this week, and thank you to our YouTube audience and Facebook audience tuning in here weekly on GrassRoots Community Network and our platform. And guys, I want to welcome back two guests that have been with us in the past. They're both from the Aspen Times. I want to welcome back David Krause and Samantha Johnston. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks.
Air
Thanks
for
5.
having
Good to see you.
Good
Air
to see
elbow.
you.
Elbow, fist bump.
Being safe, being distanced. Had my mask on earlier. It's still here. It's, in fact,
We've all
bringing
got
back
'em.
the old kind of Western bandana look, you know.
Nice.
For the most part, you know, the...
It is kind of the Wild West.
Yeah, it is kind of the Wild West. So appropriate,
Yeah.
right? Let's start with that, you guys. What's your preferred face covering, David? Do you like the buff, the bandana, the blue mask that, by the way, we see littered all over the place on every roadway?
Mine's right over there, and I have two of them from my neighbor who's a seamstress, and she made them for everybody back in March and April, and double layered, and perfect sized and everything. I actually just did a mask washing this morning. I washed my 4 masks, put one back in my car, one back in my Jeep, one in my backpack, and then one with my regular stuff.
So you just do those by hand? You just kind of
I
wash
just
them
wash them by hand. Yeah.
Okay, so custom, locally sourced, organic?
I'll ask Judy.
Locally sourced, anyway.
Yeah,
That's
she
very
made them
cool.
for everybody, all the full-time residents in our complex.
That's very
Judy
cool.
made one for everyone.
That's
yeah.
very neat. And what about you, Sam? What's your personal face covering style?
Well, I brought today my one with giraffes on it. But you know,
Nice.
another locally sourced thing, Polly Hayes is making these, and they sell them at the Aspen Emporium in Flying Circus.
Oh, I love that place.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of cool ones there. So that, but I
Yeah.
would do the buff for outside stuff. It's just easier.
Yeah.
You know, hiking, mountain biking, that kind of stuff, because then it can be around your neck when you're out in the backcountry. Pull it up when
Exactly.
so it's a little bit of both. But I discovered I had the first in-person work meeting in whatever it's been, 5 or 6 months. And I discovered
Wow.
that this was the first time I've ever packed masks to go with the outfits. So there's that.
Yeah, kind of like it's like accessorizing.
Sort of,
And
yeah.
you kind of can have fun with it.
Exactly.
I've seen some really wild designs. Of course, my home state, Wisconsin, my brothers have the new Wisconsin Badger, masks. And,
Yep.
you can kind of have fun with that and
Yeah.
be safe, have fun. And
You have a
Exactly.
Packers one yet?
I don't, but it definitely is going to be queued up. It's
Yeah.
on the way. Yeah.
All right.
Maybe I'll get number 12.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure Aaron Rodgers has to have his own mask, so,
Gotta be.
while he's still playing in the league.
Right.
So you guys, we have so much news. This is a crazy, unprecedented, really, news cycle. Just with the global pandemic, the local wildfires, and Sam, let's start with you. You guys ran a wonderful special, kind of looking at the silver linings
Right.
coming out of this. Not to be too cliche or corny,
Right.
but Aspen Silver Lining is something you guys had featured, and can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So it actually was an idea that came from Lee Tucker, who just kind of had this brainstorm and sent us a message and said, "I'm having this brainstorm. How can we make this come together?" So really the credit goes to her for the initial idea, and then kind of helping us to cultivate all of those. Cultivate, is that the word I'm looking for?
You can
Cultivate,
use that word.
culminate,
Yeah.
Gather all of the input, all of the people, and all of the bios, and all of the photos, and all of those things. So we initially did it online and had people submit their own, and then just posted those out there for people to look at, get a little inspiration, and hopefully see something that inspired them in the COVID time. And then it morphed into the Aspen Silver Linings magazine, because we thought, hopefully 2020 is a year that 20 years from now people are like, what happened in 2020? So we
Wow.
we thought that book was really important to just kind of honor this time and what it means, the impacts to the service workers and to the major industry here and the individuals and all of those frontline workers. I mean, just so many ways that the community's been impacted. But it was, you know, I mean, to your point with the conversation we were having before we were rolling the cameras was that, you know, you have to, all of us, I think, have gotten in this place where there's days that are just darker than others. Maybe you're just mad at the world for whatever reason, or you're angrier in traffic, or you're mad at a visitor, or whatever it is that's happening. We have to grab those moments that are really good. And I can think of a lot of those in this time. So anyway, that was what that was about, but inspired by Lee Tucker, and we took it to the magazine, and hopefully that'll end up in a time capsule somewhere sometime.
Yeah. No, it really came together well. I think Lee's idea, and like Sam said, the online piece was great, but then it just kept going, and we were covering these things as a staff back in March and April. You know, that's when it was really heavy, and you know, like you said earlier, we kind of settled into this spot, but back then when all the craziness, you know, people were just looking for something, and how it came together was really solid. And so, you know, we had done some reporting around, like Sam said, the frontline workers, and photo essays, you know, that Kelsey did that were great. You know, some, you know, people at the hospital, and the ambulance people and the fire people, and then we did a series on, you know, the food drives and all that. So we had all these awesome images as well, and these great stories. And so we all just kind of came together as a staff and said, okay, let's figure out the best way to do it. And between Andrew Travers kind of leading the charge of the magazine, and Lee's ideas, and all the reporters chipping in, it's just a really nice, solid piece. And if people haven't seen it, it's on our e-edition. And, you know, when I was doing the proofing on it, and I said this to Sam, I sat there one night and I said, I'm going to read this cover to cover. And it was a good 2 hours, you know, 2.5 hours of just story after story of people, you know, and we didn't use, certainly didn't use all the profiles that are online still. But it just really came together well. So really, really proud of that piece that they team put together.
That speaks to you guys, and it also speaks to the volume of good things, the number of silver linings. You know, when you have 2 hours of reading, that's a lot of good things going on. You know, and it's easy, and it's right sometimes to say, hey, you know, no distancing and masking, you know, in certain situations. That's aggravating. But also to say, but look at, like, and I those people, but then look at those people that are doing all these amazing things.
Right.
So it's you know, I think balanced approach, and, you know, both personally and I guess professionally too. I mean, Sam, how do you guys kind of balance, like, you know, I guess you could get so skewed to so many negative stories. Yeah. But how do you guys kind of get a little balance with the positive stories? How do you kind of determine that?
I think there's a lot. I mean, you know, our team in general is just such a great group of people with a love of community who, you know, are finding their own silver linings in all of this. And so I think, you know, one of the things that Dave and I talk about a lot, it just in all the times, but especially right now, is that it always feels like when somebody's not in their best place, somebody else is in their best place. And so we're really good at sort of looking at each other and being like, you know, so-and-so's, maybe they're, you know, not out there finding all the positivity in the world right now, so somebody else is. But on a story-by-story basis, I think, I mean, Dave can speak to that more, but in just finding the things to cover, you know, a lot of the news that we had just shifted so much. I mean, that nightlife and the arts and entertainment and so many things at first seem like, what are we going to do? These things don't exist anymore.
Right, they all kind of went away.
But they totally exist, just in a different way now. And I think Andrew has been really creative in how he's chosen to cover arts and entertainment and the things happening in a virtual world. And I think just being out on the streets with all of the other reporters and photographers, that they're just seeing the things that are happy, and that feels good to write about.
Right. And so some of it's the people themselves, these personalities who tend to want to seek out positive things. And then you have to creatively search for them, right, David? And then you have to obviously report and put those in the newspaper.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, you know, we all are part of the community here. You know, our staff all lives in town. I'm the outlier. Me and Scott Condon, you know, I'm a Snowmass guy, and Scott's our Mid-Valley reporter, and he lives in Basalt. But otherwise, all our reporters and editors are in town, you know, in the Upper Valley. Wow. And, you know, and we pay attention to Snowmass because we you know, continued our Snowmass Sun as we adapted, kept it going, but put it in the Times. Same with the Weekly. And so, you know, our team listens, and And the nice thing is the community, we listened to what the community was doing, and we pay attention to the comments more, you know, and people talking about, well, you don't write about this. Well, okay, well, let's see if there's something there that we should write about, you know. So we try to really pay attention and listen to what people are saying, because, yeah, there is a lot of doom and gloom in all this.
Yeah.
And it's trying to find, okay, how do you turn and how do you find those silver lining and you know, just kind of progress from there. And, you know, you really look at the frontline workers, and that's where a lot of our team, because we were considered and are considered essential workers as journalists.
Yeah, it's true.
So, you know, we've been working, you know, nonstop, which is good and bad, right? I mean, there's a lot of news out there, and people are absorbing it. We love the fact that people are going to our website so much more now, and it rolls, you know, from that. Then it's rolled into the wildfires like we talked about, and people coming to us. But, you know, listening to what people say, or when we see a comment string, you know, we've been a lot more active about that. Listening to that and paying attention. And if somebody sends us a photo or a letter to the editor, we'll try to follow up, you know, if we see some value in a bigger story. So that's been nice. And then also a lot of the community leaders have wanted to do guest commentaries and things like that. So we've tried to open a little more space for those. People in the, you know, our leaders in the community, when they want to kind of have a voice a little bit stronger and get it out there, we'll listen, you know, we'll make an effort to find a space for that if there's value in it for everybody.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, you know, and I think we all need to be uplifted, right? More than ever. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to uplift my underwriters. And on that note, this is our only break of the show, guys. We want to thank Aspen Square, CMC Aspen, Live Aspen Art, White River Overland, Pitkin County Landfill, and Sundog Athletics. We'll go to a quick message, guys. Again, our only break of the show. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We're going to get into the specific, biggest stories of the summer and so much more, you guys. So don't go away. White River Overland specializes in camper van upfitting and overland outfitting. Catering to mountain dwellers and outdoor enthusiasts, many of WRO's builds are purpose-driven to facilitate and enhance skiing, cycling, camping, climbing, and river adventures. Nestled in the White River National Forest, close to the deserts of western Colorado and Utah, WRO also rents camper vans and accessories. More at whiteriveroverland.com. CMC is preparing the people who make Aspen work. CMC Aspen collaborates with the community, providing skilled workers, future leaders, and problem solvers, meeting our economy's needs, ensuring opportunity and workforce integrity for generations to come.
I'm so passionate about this community. I absolutely love living here and raising my family here. It gives me a lot of pride to share this with my friends and my clients and help them achieve their dreams of owning an Aspen snowmass and enjoying this incredible lifestyle.
Live Aspen Art is a working studio at the base of Aspen Highlands. Come meet the artists and view both finished pieces and works in progress by owner Olivia Dane and visiting artists, or take private art classes offered for kids and adults. Olivia's recent works are also on view at Opera Gallery at the base of Aspen Mountain. For more information, contact Olivia at 970-379-2539 for an appointment or visit liveaspenartgallery.com.
Welcome to the local show. People you work with, people you know.
Back here on the local show. Thanks for sticking with us, guys, here on GrassRoots Community Network, Facebook, YouTube. And we're putting out smoke signals now, too, Sam.
Right?
Well, the wildfires are anyway. And we got Grizzly Creek.
Yes.
And then we've got that other one. What's the other one? Pine Gulch, which is closer to Grand Junction.
Right?
Yep.
And kind of the Grizzly Creek closer one, more towards the Glenwood Canyon area. How is that specifically affecting the Roaring Fork Valley? I mean, we kind of know about the closure of I-70. Independence Pass has been kind of closed and open and open and closed.
Right.
How do you think that's going to affect us or how has that affected us so far, Sam? And how do you think that's going to play out, over the weeks ahead?
Well, I think it's interesting, and I don't know that we have all of the sort of the stats yet that are going to come with what did it mean for visitors and people who had, camping permits at difficult, but were coming from the Front Range. And so when they have a 8-hour workaround to get here, what does that look like? I mean, it feels, part of it, it just hurts your heart when you look at Glenwood and the Glenwood Caverns and so many of these businesses that are, doing everything to get back on their feet related to COVID. And now they're in a scenario where they can't run their businesses because now they have a fire in the Glenwood Canyon that's gumming everything up. And so I think that's just the hard part. I'm sure if you're a, local business owner here, you're just thinking, what gives? And so, I think that clearly the impact of traffic and all of that, and Aspen not necessarily having the infrastructure to have a ton of visitors just driving in for the day, waiting for the pass to open when that was closed.
Right.
The logistics of everything. And I think that all of the resources out there, whether it's law enforcement or fire or whoever's running logistics for anything, there's just a lot of moving parts, and people are, there's not enough resources to go around when you have all of these sort of emergency things happening at once. So, it puts a strain on an already really strained system for sure. I think it's just been one more thing for local businesses that they're working through. And certainly I think it impacts what limited summer tourism we do have, because now it's a real challenge to get around the state in multiple directions. I mean, you had Cameron Pass closed into Fort Collins, you've got the Mess and Grand Junction, you have lots of the workarounds to get into the mountains that are closed. So you have a news perspective that might be different, but I think that's sort of the overall just economic and logistics of things. It's just, it's a lot on top of a lot.
I could see, especially since this is the summer of the road trip, that if you're driving, like you said, your drive could be significantly longer. You're also saying, should we go because of the smoke in the air now?
Right.
We had planned on bike riding, hiking, all these things, like a lot of the things we love to do, aerobic sports. So it will impact tourism. We don't have the numbers, like you say, the metrics yet. And I think we're also, David, waiting for firefighters from other states, right, to get here and supplement the under 700 firefighters that I think are
once they made it a type 1, we saw it with Lake Christine fire, as they take over and they see the immediate need, and as the governor said on Friday in the news conference, and they said again over the weekend, this is the highest priority fire in the country right now.
Wow.
Because of the interstate, because of the commerce and the disruption, it's moving, slowly toward .0 and, and all the difficulties of fighting it in the steep terrain. So you see the resources coming in. It's a weird one because of the way it's split. There are people in Glenwood and resources in Glenwood out of the airport and all that, but then you have the command center over on the east side of the canyon. And we've been covering it with our partners, our sister papers, the Glenwood Post Independent and the Vail Daily. And just, kind of, okay, you've got this today, we've got that today, who can do this from there, and kind of working the logistics, because it's not like the Lake Christine fire where it was all Eagle County and they based out of the community center there in Basalt, or I guess, unincorporated part of the county, but, by Crown Mountain. And so that was a little easier for us to cover because we had all the firefighters were basing out of there. The command center was there.
Right. It's all centralized.
It's all centralized, and it just made it a little bit easier for them to fight the fire and for us to cover the fire. So I think that's an interesting dynamic. But knowing that there are so many larger resources coming here shows you just how important it is to get the interstate open. And as you might have seen, we had pictures from Chelsea Self in Glenwood and Chris Dillman in Vail, our photographers there, from inside the canyon over the weekend. And, the interstate is going to be an issue for a while. And we've been talking about the last couple of days, and a lot of people have, once the fire gets done, and we saw it in Basalt, on Basalt Mountain, once we get those first couple of rains or we get those thaw cycles and all that rock slide, one of our crew guys, I think Sean Naylor over in Vail, got there was a rock slide while they were doing a tour in the canyon.
Wow.
You know, and I got video of that. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it changes the river, how much rock gets down there. You know, you see the photos of the rocks going through the railing. So
I know you think about the immediate impacts, but then there's going to be these more long-term side effects, these impacts that are going to be going on for months, if not years.
Yep.
So that's an interesting thing, and we're down to just such a short period of time. But one kind of fun thing I just wanted to insert is, has there been, seeing as my current hairdo, it's almost gone like 80s mullet-like, you know, kind of shorter in the front, longer in the back. Has there been a feature, or will there be a feature about COVID head? I mean, this is a serious issue that's affecting a lot of us directly. We don't have that person maybe to go, you know, take some hacks on our hair, that special someone, and we're not going to risk a barber.
You're not going
I mean,
by
David,
Sammy's?
has there been a feature on COVID head?
We haven't done. I posted my COVID head because I finally got in and got my number 3 buzz cut after 3 or 4 weeks, as long as it's been. But no, I'm sorry to say, Eric, we didn't zero in on the COVID
Well,
head
just
yet.
because it's not
But,
impacting
you know,
you anymore.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, well, let's shift a little bit to more of the bigger picture pandemic. And Sam, just kind of briefly, because we do want to get to a couple of things, is how do you guys kind of approach that? Because this has been going on for quite a few months.
Right.
It's obviously a global issue. So we're talking about the global, the national, and then the local. You know, how do you guys kind of approach a massive story like that? You know, one of the biggest in our lifetime.
I think, you know, the good news about being in community like we're in, being in this community that is, you know, so interested in what's happening with their own community. I mean, that's where we do the best journalism in the world, is about Aspen and about what's happening in Aspen. You know, there's nobody else who's on the ground doing it better than local media. And so I think, you know, that's really where we focus, and Dave can certainly talk about that. But, you know, we don't need to cover the world scale of that things. We have the New York Times and the BBCs and the other news outlets who are going to cover kind of that world scale. What we get to the benefit of doing, and I think it's the fun part of living and working in a town like this in this business, is covering the things that people get up in the morning and think, I need to know this about Aspen, Colorado, or the Roaring Fork Valley, or Pitkin County, Colorado. I need to know this, and there are a handful of places to get that information. You can't go to the New York Times and find that.
True.
So I think that, you know, obviously that localized part is what we do best and where we're best positioned. But I also think that, you know, when COVID happened, we said we've never been more uncertain about the future of what we're doing, yet worked harder in our entire lives. I mean, it was like 22 hours a day of just everything changing, and almost as soon as you would write something and put it online, in an hour from then, the dynamics changed again.
Yeah, exactly.
And that happened for weeks. And I think, you know, just that our teams and all of the local media teams in Aspen just out doing it all day, every day. And none of us, you know, it's not like a football team. We don't put in a different string when the first one gets tired. So I think that has been, I mean, just the fatigue of months of covering something that changes so often. And then you add a fire into the mix just as you start to get where the news doesn't change every minute. Maybe it's every day or two. Then you get a fire and people are like, every 30 minutes, what now? What's happening now? Is it still closed? How big is the fire? And that was just like round 2 now of consistent coverage. But
gosh, I know. It's just got to be so incredibly challenging. And thank you on that note for all you guys are doing on the front line for our day-to-day lives in Aspen. Things we really need to know, like, is Independence Pass open today? Can I drive over? You know, all these crucial things. What's the latest on distancing and masking and keeping ourselves safe?
Testing.
And those kinds of things. Testing. Let's just switch really quick, though. We talked about the summer visitor really briefly in terms of the summer of the road trip, or pandemic pods, I call them, these RVs and all these vehicles coming in. And then we're seeing, you know, the local trails quite crowded. We're seeing quite a few different effects. We're seeing people coming from the hottest COVID areas in the country also coming here, and some actually moving here. And David, can you speak to that a little bit about the unique summer visitor that we have this season?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, to the point of the road trip, right? And people leaving the places that are hot spots, and we know where those are. And we point it out in stories, and people get, you know, regionalized and all that. But, you know, we live here, we see it, we understand how it plays out. And, you know, it's a great place to be, and we all, you know, it's a great escape for people. But to the point of understanding what the rules are when they get here, people I think slowly are learning. I took a break. I went to Missouri finally. I took a break after a few months and went to my brother's lake house, and I was surprised at how different it was there. That people, when you went into the grocery store, half the people were wearing masks. They weren't required. They're big on social distancing. You go to, didn't go into any restaurants or anything, but you check it into I did a little golf, and so did a little golf and boat, and that was the thing, and it's different. And I think here we're really, really serious, and we've all lived it so hard through March and April and May that once it opened all back up, we all were like, and they've slowly come along. I think the visitors now, we aren't seeing the confrontations as we were at the beginning when we started rolling out the mask rules in Aspen and in Snowmass and in the Valley, Basalt. So I think that's changed a little bit. I think it's getting better.
Yeah, me too.
But I think it's an overall thing that, the tensions between people who don't have it bad but are leaving and coming here and understand this isn't why we don't have it bad, because we have these rules. I think people are starting to understand that dynamic a lot better.
Exactly, and we're seeing the effect specifically about masking and distancing, bringing our numbers down. So you just look at the metrics, look at the numbers, and there's a correlation. People are picking up on that. I think it does take time. And there's a bunch of education, and there's some social pressure. Yeah. That when you're walking around and you see everyone wearing masks, you don't want to be that person necessarily that's defying anymore. Even if you took a stand earlier to be defiant, my freedom, my personal choice, all this kind of language people were using. Yeah. I have to get a quick plug, though, because it's been such a busy news cycle. And we're planning our annual community litter cleanup called Trash Crush. Right. Yep. This year it's called the 5th Annual Pristine Riders Trash Crush. We're holding it on August 26th, 10 to 1. 520 Grill is going to donate lunches for the first 15 volunteers that register. And I just wanted to kind of get that out there because I know it's just easy to get lost in all the big news and major stories going on. And so Trash Crush, August 26th. I'm hosting that. We'll meet at the South Gate at North Star at 10 o'clock, which is actually next Wednesday. Did you guys have fun on the show today?
Always a good time, Eric.
We always have a good time.
I know, it's so fun to have you. I wish we had more time, guys, but I do have some parting gifts. I baked you some cookies.
Thank you.
And there's a little goodie there from Pickett County Landfill.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for your time. And thanks for all you do in our community.
Appreciate it, Eric. We
Fun
enjoy
to be
it.
here today.
And thank you, Luna, for being such a nice co-host. And thank you guys for watching The Local Show. White River Overland specializes in camper van upfitting and overland outfitting. Catering to mountain dwellers and outdoor enthusiasts, many of WRO's builds are purpose-driven to facilitate and enhance skiing, cycling, camping, climbing, and river adventures. Nestled in the White River National Forest, close to the deserts of western Colorado and Utah, WRO also rents camper vans and accessories. More at whiteriveroverland.com.
Celebrating another great summer season by offering up to 25% off their nightly rates. Aspen Square Hotel is the hospitality place featuring fireplace studio suites and larger condominiums with full hotel-style services in the center of downtown Aspen. Aspen Square is proud to support The Locals Show. Sundog Athletics, Aspen's Adventure Sports School, is your opportunity to experience one-of-a-kind guided adventures and gain new skills to experience the thrills of mountain and road biking, fitness hiking, and Aspen's exclusive canoeing adventure. They can be reached at 970-925-1069, and fresh updates can be found at Sundog Athletics on Facebook or sundogathletics.com.
Welcome to